So, I'd like to welcome to the Design Notes studio one of Bavaria's top designers. She's the designer of Men at Work and King of 12, Rita Modl. Rita, welcome to the Design Notes studio.
Yeah, hi, I'm very glad to be here.
So, my first question is where most people are very modest, and I'm sure you're no different, but here you get to be arrogant and boastful, because we all secretly want to be. So, when did you know that you were good at what you do?
First, it was the fun I had with what I did. So I started designing, and I thought this is a lot of fun, and I like making prototypes and play testing. And so when I get my first contract, I understand, okay, maybe I'm not that bad. But when I started, it was in 2016. I learned a lot of things, so I can say I learned so much. I'm way better than I'm in the beginning.
And so how did you get into game design? What takes, because you were a photographer previously, what takes someone from photography into game design?
I started design, so photo design was one part of it, and creating things was one of the part in my at school. And so at one day I had the idea, I wanted to design a board game, and I started, and I thought, hey, this is fun. And then after that, I just checked, hey, what is designing? What are the rules and what I have to do, and prototyping and publishers and all the other stuff came after that. I just had fun to design. That was the start.
So I've tried to design games and I've not found them at all fun. That process, my brain doesn't work in that way. What is it about the design process that makes it fun for you?
Okay, in the beginning, I just designed something. I just had fun creating something, and I didn't know if it's good or not. But now I have all the information, all the games are out there, and all the mechanics, very important thing. And now it is fun to create something very new. So I think the high level of designing is create a new mechanic. And if you decide a new game and you think this is something never existed before, then it's a cool feeling.
Was there anything about your previous life? So you studied design at university, and was there anything about your previous life that led you into board game design? What was it? Was there anything in your degree, anything in your job that made you that when you came to designing games, you thought, oh, it's really useful that I know how to do this?
And not board game design, but design the whole thing. So I use Adobe Creative Suite. This is a very big point. I always use Creative Suite, Photoshop, InDesign, and I already need that for my job now. And being creative, getting solutions for something, that was one part of at the school, and this is now something I can use again.
And what was the journey that got you? So you talked about, designing that first game and not really knowing much about the world of board games, but what got you to that first contract? How did you go from sort of a relatively novice designer to someone who has a real published game?
Yes. So my first game I designed was really not good. It was a running game with action cards. Yeah. So Monopoly with action cards. Now when I hear that, okay. And after I designed my first game, I started playing again. And so I connected to a lot of people in the board game business, and playing more and more, and watching a lot of YouTube videos, a lot of rule videos. This is also very important. And so I knew every month I knew more about this business, about games. And I knew in 2 years I got from knowing nothing to knowing a lot, and this was very important. Yeah, and so now I'm in playing board game playing groups and going to fairs, and so this business is very small, and I think everybody knows each other, and this is also very good to get into the business because it's very small business.
So it's when people sort of outside of Germany think about Germany. Germany is the kind of powerhouse,
Yeah.
especially of kind of Euro game design, and there are a lot of sort of the household names in board games come from Germany. How welcoming is that German designer environment? Are they welcoming? Because the stereotype is that Germans are very reserved and very closed. I mean, how welcoming is it to a new designer?
So I'm not very reserved.
Hmm?
Yeah. I'm very open-minded and communicative person. I think everybody is welcome in this business, and this is a very big difference to other businesses. So as you said, I was a photographer before, and the photographer business is very, very difficult. Everybody is checking.
Elbowing.
Yes, and very hard. And of course, we are designing games and we have to earn money, but it's not that hard as in other businesses. And I would say you're very welcome when you're a new designer, and this is good. This is something really good. And this is all good for me. So I'm not working for 5 years in this business, and I cannot say, here's my game. It's not good, but take it. I have also be very good in what I do.
Mm-hmm. And so, what is it like what is the German community like for people who don't speak German? Would it be possible for someone who had moved to Germany and they were thinking about getting into game design and they didn't speak the language? Would that be a problem, do you think?
Oh, no. So I think board game designers, nearly everybody speaks German, and when we design games, a few of the German board game designers make all the cards and the rules in English because they have to give it to English publishers. So it's very easy for non-German speakers.
And how do you find the German board game community in general outside of designers? What is it like? How would you describe it to someone who doesn't live in Germany?
It seems to be it's like a hard when something is hard outside, but soft.
It has a hard shell.
Yeah, but it's not like that. Yeah, you have to speak to people, of course. But if you speak to people, then they're all very friendly. So for me, it wasn't a problem because I can speak to people, and they are all very friendly, I would say.
And so whether it was your first published game or not, I think it was, but the one that sort of put you on the map that people started to, was Men at Work. I mean, what was the process of designing that game? Because it's not a little game, it's not a card game, it's a big game with lots of things in it. How did you come to that?
Yes, it was a very funny story because Men at Work, so the prototype of Men at Work existed after another prototype of me, and I had that prototype, and I showed it to Anita from White Castle Agency, and she said, it's good, but it's not finished yet. Maybe you could work in that again. And the old prototype had also sticks on it, and it was another rules, and it worked. It wasn't. Yeah, it was also a dexterity game, but not that's now a Man at Work. And I just put the sticks on the table and put the meeple on it because I thought, I don't know what to do with this game. And then I looked at it and put the people again on it and says, this is this is fun, this is cool. And so I made new rules, I made a new game, and I showed it to Anita, and she said, yeah, that's cool. And after that, there was a fair in Nuremberg, the
Mm.
Messe, and she showed it to Plan B Games, and I said, yes, we do it.
And were you surprised? Were you surprised that the game was signed?
I was surprised that it was very fast.
Hmm?
Because he showed it and they said immediately, yes, we do that. And then 9 months later, the game was there. And this is something very special
Yeah.
for a big game. And this was very fast. And this was oh, wow, okay, I'm now doing that. Okay. Yes.
And how surprised were you at the reaction? Because it got very positive reaction. Were you surprised at that, or were you confident, thinking the game's great, people are going to love it?
I would say I'm very, very, very thankful of that. This opens a lot of doors, and this pushes me to go on with designing. And I knew a lot of other new designers, and I've heard, okay, their first game wasn't that successful, and they're a little bit depressed. And I'm very, very thankful how much people like the game. Yeah.
So can you give us an overview of your process? How do you get from an idea in your head to a game that's playable on the table?
Yes. I have not a really process. I have so normally you have three ways to start. So the mechanic, the theme, or something material you would like to work with. And I started with all three things. So 3 months ago, I checked my old photos in my iPhone. So I always make photos, and maybe I have some idea for later. And I just looked in that photos, and I made when I was flying into my holidays. Hey, there is my little doggy dog. Look, he's there. Cuckoo. Yeah. And I made a picture from the flight window, and there were all the fields out there. And I make a picture, and 3 months ago, I just look at the picture and I said, "Hey, this looks so cool. Let's start a game of that." And now I created a game of that. So this was a theme I was going on. But normally, I would say it's the mechanic. I want to create something new. I want to check out if something works. But I'm open-minded in every three parts.
And how easy do you find the process? Do you ever find a point where you're designing a game and you get to a point and you say, this is pointless, I can't go any further, this is no good? Or is it always quite an easy process for you?
No. Designing game is not easy. So you can see behind me all these games. Behind those games are prototypes I'm not working on again. So I had a lot of unfinished games. And now the process is now better than before. So these are very old games. So 2-3 years ago, when now when I'm working on a game, it's much more better. But it could also be I'm working on a game half a year, and then I see it's not working. Okay, I put it in my shelf, and maybe in 1 year I look at it again, and then comes the idea.
And so, we spoke before you came on my podcast, and it was kind of in the middle of the pandemic. To what degree did the pandemic push you into the area of being a game designer? Because it's difficult to get out there and do weddings with a camera and things like that.
Yeah. So I when I was a photographer, I made a lot of fairs and photographed politicians.
Mm.
And during the pandemic, I had no jobs, but at the same time, the board game uh, invoices are going higher, and then I thought, okay, then I'm doing that. But just to let me be clear, the pandemic wasn't good for me. So
Sure.
it was because there were no fairs. I can't play test, and I think I got 1 year lost because of the pandemic. So
And so, okay, you designed a game and you have this idea.
yeah,
I mean, how good are you at the business side, the pitching side, the dealing with publishers? Do you find that fun? Do you find developing those relationships fun, or is that the stressful part of it?
this is a very stressful part, of course. I knew a lot of publishers in person, and it's yeah. I on the other way, I want to be very friendly, and on the other side, I want to show my games to them. It's always you have to find a middle way.
Mm.
Yes, I think it's in like any other business. So you have to communicate with people. You have to making advertisement and so on. It's like in every other business. So yeah.
And are you a good networker? I mean, if anyone was to see your Instagram, you seem to be everywhere all the time. Are you good at it?
I'm there every time. I'm a good networker. But the business is very open minded for networking, I would say.
Mm.
Yes.
And so, what is the crux of a fun game? When do you know that when you're designing, when do you know that you think, now I'm onto something? What is fun, I guess, is my question.
It's always difficult because when you play test, and I do really play test a lot. I play test, and all of my testers say, cool game, a lot of fun. And then I show it to publishers, and they test it and say, no, it wasn't fun. And it could be on the other side again. So I play test it, and I thought, I don't know. And then I show it, and they say, wow, cool game. And I don't know. I don't know.
And so, you're a professional designer now. And do you still get that feeling of excitement when, the doorbell goes and the DPD man delivers you the box and you open it and you see that fully produced idea of yours in your hands for the first time?
Of course, it's not the same like at my first game, but I'm also very happy. But it's the better feeling when I'm on a fair and people playing my game. This is the much more better feeling and having it in hands. Yes.
And sort of, what would you say to people to recommend the game design job to them?
Don't do it. No, it's a very hard business. You're a freelancer, and you have to do a lot of work in a lot of you're working 1 year on a game, and you don't know if this game ever get published or if you see money of that, and this is very hard. And I can do that because I have no kids, I have duties, and so I'm very free in what I do, and so I can afford that. Yes.
And is it possible to so many people say, don't get into game design if you want to make money, and yet I've seen over the last 10 years more and more people becoming full-time game designers. I mean, is it possible to make a decent living?
Yes, of course it's possible, but it's very hard. It's a full-time job. It's
Yeah.
not that easy. You're getting, I have one game published, and then I can live off that, and it's a Catan, and getting millions of dollars. No, it's you're a freelancer, and you are selling games, you're selling ideas, and maybe you have a lot of luck, or maybe not. Yes.
So can you tell us on that subject what you have coming out in the future? What can we get from you coming out in the next sort of year, 2 years?
New games?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay, so in August there is a small family game from the Frech Verlag. It's a book publisher in German, but they also want to do more board games now. And in Essen this year, at the Spiel, in October, there will be a Zwergendorf.
For the English listeners, that means Village of Dwarves.
Yes. It's from Skellig Games, and it's my first expert game. So for adults, it's my first adult game, and I'm very excited because I worked 3 years on that game. And yeah, you can see that because I think we are all wearing red hats on the film. Me too. And yeah, and it's a draft and write. Yeah, with a very special mechanic. Yes. Yes. And next year, in the beginning, there it would be the Queen of 12. It's
which is a roll and write, if I'm correct.
Yes.
Because I played that at Lyriacon this year.
Really?
I did. There was someone there who was demoing it there.
Okay, but it's not finished yet, so maybe rules changed again. I don't know.
I'm not gonna tell you what I thought of it. I'll tell you what I think of it when it's published.
Oh no!
No, I had a lot of fun. It was very quick, and I had a lot of fun.
So it's the third title of 12 series. And it's competitive again, and it's a roll and write, yes. So.
And so, what are your ambitions for the future as a game designer?
So normally for living, I would say I want to publish one game a year. This is what I want to do, minimum. But also having fun again, and yeah, designing new games.
So in a month in Berlin, where I'm based,
yes,
is the Spiel des Jahres ceremony, where they will announce who wins the Spiel des Jahres, which is, I guess, it's the Oscars of board games, right? I mean, how important is it for, firstly, you as a designer, and secondly, for the culture of German design? How important is the Spiel des Jahres, and to what degree do designers design towards the Spiel des Jahres?
It's a very important award because if you have that title, a game would sell a lot of more and yeah, it's important. So yeah, what shall I say? It's important.
Is it an ambition for you in the future, or do you?
No,
or
because
no?
You never can say if you're on that list or not. So in the past I said I want to win this, but now I can say, okay, if I win this, it's okay, but if not, you cannot know. It's also you have to be on the right time, game on the right time, right place. It's always the same when you publish a book or something. Always right time, right place, and you can never say if you're on that list or not.
So if you won the Spiel des Jahres, would that be life-changing, do you think?
For me as a female designer, I think it would be important for other female designers to show, hey, female designers could be also very successful. Yeah.
And do you think there is an imbalance between male and female designers in the industry? I mean, so there are clearly more male designers, but do you feel a sexism in the industry, or
No, that's not. But there are not a lot of female designers. So
and do you have any idea why that may be?
yes, because it's a full-time job and it's not very family friendly. And if you have to have your duties for children or earning money, I cannot recommend that.
So I've got two more questions then. So you're at Essen, and you're in Fitzpatrick, the Irish pub, after Essen, and you're coming back from the loo, and you hear a table talking about you. You hear your name mentioned. So you go into the corner and you listen to what they're saying. What do you hope they're saying about you?
I don't know. Listen, I'm sit on a table and talk.
But then they won't be honest when they say what they think about
They
you.
should be honest.
Well, they won't. I mean, if you sit at the table, they're not going to be honest, are they?
That's their problem.
Okay, so my final question is then, why is gaming good?
Because gaming is very good for the brain, first of all, and it's bringing people together, and it's kind of creating a new fantasy and maybe being someone you are not in real life, getting your fantasy and so on. So yeah, games are great.
Excellent. Well, Rita Modl, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you too. I'm very glad to see you at BerlinCon. This would be
absolutely.
Yeah.
And you should bring your dog as well.
No, he's very old and he don't like people, so